In this Shiren the Wanderer, the Tower of Fortune, and the Dice of Fate gameplay features and beginner tips video, we'll be taking a look at the latest installment of the roguelike title developed and published by Spike Chunsoft. The game will be coming out on the 2nd of December for the Nintendo Switch and PC via Steam. This new installment brings bonus dungeons as well as new features such as the music collection, the live display mode, and the global Wanderer rescue system. This is a sponsored post. Please note, sponsored posts are only sponsoring coverage. Our opinions on the game are our own and not affected by any business relationships with developers or publishers. You play as Shiren the Wanderer accompanied by his ferret sidekick Koppa. You embark on a quest to complete the mysterious Tower of Fortune, where it is told that Reeva, god of destiny, holds sway over the past, present, and future and decides the fate of all mankind with a trio of magical dice. The game features gorgeous retro 2D graphics and colorful characters that you'll immediately find yourself attached to. Combined with the beautiful music, it makes for a very enjoyable experience. You can also customize the menu color, shape, and size to fit your preference. Among the new features, the live display option specifically designed for live streaming was introduced, displaying your status, items, equipment, abilities, gameplay time, and turns spent in the dungeon. Another new feature includes the music collection, which allows you to listen to any game melody that you like at any time you want. The music of this game is very catchy, so this is a very welcome addition. For those of you familiar with roguelike games, you'll feel right at home with this title, while players new to the genre will be able to quickly learn the mechanics by accessing the numerous tutorials without the frustration that can sometimes come in this genre of games. Shiren is a roguelike game, meaning that when you die, you'll lose all your hard-earned items, equipment, and levels, and you'll have to start over from the first area. There are ways, however, to store items and money that can be used on future runs, but your level will always drop to 1 no matter if you complete the dungeon or not. You'll start off level 1 and you'll have to make your way through the same areas each time you start over. Each area has its own monsters, loot, and events, but the layout of each map is randomly generated and unique, so each run will be different, as new traps, encounters, and situations may spawn to surprise you. While you explore the map in search of the stairs leading to the next level, you'll have to defeat monsters, pick up loot, and manage your health and hunger. You'll reach villages along the way that act as milestones where you can rest and restock on items. The game is divided into turns. Each time you take an action such as attacking, walking, or picking up an item, it is considered a turn. Enemies in the map will take a turn after yours, so you'll have to plan ahead depending on what is happening in the game. There are 2 main resources that you need to look after: health and hunger. A small portion of your health is recovered each turn, so it'll return as you walk through the dungeon. You can also remain still and pass turns to recover health if you want to play it safe, but keep in mind that enemies will keep moving as you are passing turns. You can also heal using several consumable items that you can be purchased or found throughout the game. The second resource that you'll have to manage is hunger. You'll lose a small portion of your fullness bar each turn, and you'll need to eat to recover it. If your fullness bar depletes, you'll start losing health each turn until you die, so it's imperative that you manage this. If your health reaches 0 or lower, your character will collapse, meaning that you'll lose all your equipment and you'll be back in town at level 1. However, depending on the dungeon that you're currently in, you'll be given the option to request a rescue, and you can request up to 3 rescues per run. Rescue is an online option that allows you to request aid from other players around the globe. Once the rescue is issued, other players will be able to respond to it from the main menu and head into the dungeon you're currently in to find your body and revive you. When successfully revived, you'll be able to continue from where you were currently standing, keeping both your equipment and level. The new global rescue system implemented with the new installment of the game provides players with a ranking system, top dungeon scores, and rescue attempts, providing a friendly but competitive online community. There are other ways, however, to prevent you from collapsing or losing your equipment. The easiest way to prevent collapsing is holding revival grass or undue grass in your inventory. These can be acquired from the Point Shop at Neko Maneki Village and are sometimes sold by other shops. The Point Shop, for example, is a special market that uses points instead of money. To acquire points, you must first purchase the point license at the shop, and then step on top of the point switches that can be found scattered across various dungeons. Revival Grass. If you collapse while you have one of these in your inventory, your character will be revived at full health and all status ailments will be removed. This can be very effective to keep your run going, but it won't save you if you're cornered by enemies. Undue Grass. Though a little more expensive, the Undue Grass functions the same as the Revival Grass, but it also gives you the option to escape the dungeon with all the equipment you are currently carrying. This is a much better choice, as if you get cornered by enemies, you can just escape and restart without losing your equipment. Another way of preserving your equipment in case you collapse is by tagging it. Once you reach the second town, you'll get the option to pay a sum of money to tag your shield and weapon. When an item is tagged, there's a good chance you can recover it at the Lost and Found shop located in the second town, so make sure to always tag your main equipment. After you reach the second town milestone, the night and day cycle will kick in. After a certain amount of turns, you'll get a notice that night will fall. During night, all regular enemies are replaced by special, more powerful enemies, and your vision becomes very limited. Night enemies will fight each other, acquiring experience and quickly becoming very powerful. They are also resistant to regular attacks, so players will only be able to deal damage to them using abilities, which can only be used during night. Shiren has 8 ability slots. Each time you use an ability, it becomes unavailable until you switch floors. You can also recharge some of them by consuming peaches. It's best to try to avoid enemies and only use the abilities when most needed, as enemies will keep respawning and you will end up running out of options very quickly. You can use a torch to increase your vision and navigate through the map and avoid the night enemies. After a certain amount of turns, daylight will come back and the night enemies will disappear, you'll regain regular vision, and regular enemies will spawn. You can recruit NPCs that you meet during your adventures to aid you in combat, and you can have up to 3 party members active at the same time. They are especially useful during your early runs as they can damage and distract your enemies. They will earn experience and level up when they travel with you, but they won't lose their level when their run finishes, meaning that they will become more powerful with each successive run. Allies, with the exception of Jirokichi, can die during combat and you won't be able to recruit them again until your next adventure. When an ally is killed, the enemy will require experience and will most likely level up, so be careful how you position them and try not to let this happen. Jirokichi. You'll need to travel with him to complete the story. If he dies during battle, a grave will appear. You can throw healing items such as herb, healing pot, etc. at the grave to revive him. Note that if you continue ahead without reviving him, you'll be forced to come back to the village. Tao. She is arguably the most powerful companion, and she can perform a ranged attack that can hit several enemies in the room at the same time. You'll meet her when you reach the Tower of Fortune, and you'll have to pay her 1,500 each time you recruit her. You can also talk to her in the dungeon, and she will sometimes sell you items. Koji Rota. You'll find him at the starting village inside the house on the far left. He is quite strong and can perform a powerful single-target ranged attack, but he will often engage enemies on his own, which can be annoying at higher levels where it is most likely to get him killed. Okon. You'll find her through your adventures. During battle, she can transform into different enemies and perform their special attacks. She can inflict various status ailments, and you can tell her what to transform into, making her a very flexible option. Koharu. You'll also find her through your adventures. She can transform herself into a weapon or shield which you can use. To do so, talk to her during the adventure and tell her what you want her to morph into. Then you'll find the item in your inventory. This is especially useful during your early runs as you won't have equipment stored away. Again, you can find him at his house in the Neko Maneki village. After you speak to him, head to the Inori village and talk to the woman cooking inside a house, and she will give you juice. Head back again and give him the juice to make him your ally. There's a special dungeon that you can visit from the stove located in the corner of this house once you become your ally, but you'll need to beat the Tower of Fortune before accessing it. Equipment is one of the most important aspects of Shiren, as it's the only thing that can be carried over from run to run. The game features an impressive total of 900 different items, providing the player with a lot of options. You mainly acquire items by picking them up from dungeons, but you can also buy them in stores or acquire them as rewards for completing dungeons. Some of the most powerful equipment can only be found in specific dungeons, and players are encouraged to complete them if they aim to complete the whole item book. The inventory size is limited to 24 items, but you can use pots to further expand it. Correctly managing your inventory is a very important part of the game, as each consumable or item you find can be crucial later on. Items are divided into 3 different categories: equipable, food, pots, and consumables. Equipable items are swords, torches, shields, and bracelets that can be equipped to provide a passive bonus. You can equip 1 sword or torch, 1 shield, and 1 bracelet at the same time. Each time you find a new piece of equipment, make sure to read its description, as it might have unique properties that are not immediately apparent. Swords and shields are the most important pieces of equipment, and they have 3 different stats that can be increased: level, upgrade level, and runes. Level. Swords and shields will earn experience as you use them to defeat monsters, increasing their overall stats and rune capacity. Once they reach level 8, their rune capacity will become infinite, allowing you to combine them with as many equipment pieces as you want and acquiring all types of effects. Upgrade level. Both swords and shields can be upgraded by either finding a blacksmith or using an upgrade scroll, fate scroll for weapons, and earth scroll for shields. This will enhance their attack or defensive capabilities. Runes. Weapons and shields have unique abilities called runes. You can use the synthesis pot to combine weapons with other weapons or shields with other shields and acquire their respective runes. This is the most effective way of increasing your combat capabilities, as you gain various status effects from a single piece of equipment. To do this, first insert the piece of weapon or shield you want to upgrade into a synthesis pot, and then insert the piece with the desired runes. Once you are done, break the pot and pick up your upgraded equipment. Consumable items such as scrolls, staves, arrows, and talismans can be used to gain the upper hand in combat. Staves and arrows are a great way to attack enemies from a distance, while scrolls and talismans can apply different status ailments to enemies, providing you an advantage in combat. Herbs, on the other hand, can be consumed to heal both yourself and allies, as well as to acquire some buffs or heal status ailments. You'll find different pots while you explore the dungeons. Each pot will only use 1 inventory slot, but you can insert up to 5 items inside each of them, greatly increasing your inventory capacity. To regain the items back from inside the pot, you'll need to break it or use an extraction scroll. The preservation pot is the most versatile one, as it allows you to insert and remove items at will, so you want to be on the lookout for it. You can find warehouses in most villages and towns. You can throw items inside of these warehouses and they won't disappear even if you collapse. This is very useful if you want to preserve some items in your current run but you don't have an escape scroll or an undo grass. If you are in the Neko Maneki village, you can also visit the manager located inside the main hub to store items. You'll be able to retrieve them without cost anytime you visit the village. You can visit the Dungeon Center in Neko Maneki village to access unique and challenging dungeons. These dungeons are independent from the story and most of them have their own set of rules and unique rewards. I highly recommend you experience these for yourself as these are very fun and provide you with even further knowledge about the game. You can also find mini-games in the Dungeon Center such as the Statue Cave, which acts like a puzzle where you need to move statues to certain places, or Explosion Rocks, which is essentially Minesweeper from back in the day. Doing these activities between runs might be especially good as it can help you clear your head a bit and help you relax. Finally, once you finish the main adventure, you'll be able to access some additional dungeons, including the new Garden of Destiny that was added in this new installment. Notes and tips. If you're playing on PC, you can set your controls from the launcher. I personally find that the keyboard C setting is the best config as I'm used to moving with A, S, W, and D, but you can set it up however you like. You can visit the license shop in the Neko Maneki village to buy monster licenses. This will make you an ally with all enemies of that particular type inside a dungeon, meaning that they won't attack you and they will attack all hostile enemies. This can make difficult dungeons much easier. Make sure you always carry an undo grass in case you need it. Things may get out of hand very quick, and if you don't have an undo grass, you might lose all your equipment. You can also carry a revival grass and an escape scroll, but in some situations, this might not be enough. Bring money into your adventures. You'll find shops with useful items during your adventures, and you can also spend it in other villages. Even if you're experienced with the roguelike games, I strongly recommend that you complete the tutorials as there are many unique mechanics happening in the game that you might not otherwise notice. And lastly, when you finish a game session, make sure you suspend from the menu, as force closing the game will lose your progress and will count as a collapse, making you lose all your equipment and reducing your level back to 1.